Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to explore one of the most striking moments in modern diplomacy, an event that not only defined India's assertive foreign policy, but also sent ripples across the global stage. This is the moment when India, through the words of its External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, delivered a reply to the United States, specifically to Donald Trump, that was so precise, so confident, and so grounded in national dignity that it came to be described as a chilling statement. To understand the significance of this moment, we need to examine it in depth, almost like reviewing a masterpiece, looking at its exterior, its interior strength, its performance on the global stage, the safety measures built within, the unique selling points that made it unforgettable, the price that India was willing to pay for it, and the conclusion that emerges for the world to see.
From the outside, India's reply appeared calm and composed. There were no raised voices, no emotional outbursts, no undiplomatic confrontations. The exterior was sleek and dignified, much like a finely crafted piece of architecture that stands tall, not because it shouts for attention, but because it exudes quiet power. Trump, during his presidency, was known for his blunt remarks, often targeting trade partners, allies, and competitors alike. When he set his sights on India, hinting at unfair trade practices or suggesting that India was taking advantage of the United States, the natural expectation might have been that New Delhi would either back down quietly to preserve the relationship or respond in a defensive manner. But India chose neither. Instead, through Jaishankar, India projected an exterior of unshakable confidence. The statement was calm in delivery but sharp in content. It was the kind of exterior that signaled to the world that India no longer felt the need to justify itself endlessly, nor to seek validation from bigger powers. The strength lay not in confrontation but in controlled expression.
Inside, the interior of this reply was equally striking. At its core, it carried the values of self-reliance, national pride, and policy clarity. Dr. Jaishankar has often emphasized that India's foreign policy is not about pleasing everyone, but about serving India's interests with responsibility and maturity. In his statement, the interior was revealed in the layers of meaning. There was simplicity in the words, but they carried centuries of history, decades of development, and the aspirations of over 1 billion people. He didn't have to decorate the reply with complicated language. The interior was minimal but robust, like the engine of a machine designed to endure long distances without breaking down. The shortness of the interior message made it even more powerful. India will not be bullied. India will stand for itself, and India will decide its path. Sometimes it is not the length of the words, but the weight they carry that makes the difference. And in this case, the interior of Jaishankar's response was loaded with the quiet weight of conviction. When we shift our focus to performance, the impact becomes even clearer. Performance is about results, about how a statement resonates, not just in the moment, but in the days, weeks, and months that follow. Jaishankar's words performed at multiple levels. Domestically, they reassured Indians that their leadership was not willing to bend under pressure, that India's dignity would be preserved on the global stage. This strengthened the government's position at home, reinforcing the idea that India was rising as a power that could no longer be pushed around. Internationally, the performance was even more impressive. Other nations watched carefully, observing how India handled a direct challenge from the most powerful country in the world. The performance signaled to allies and partners that India was dependable, that it had the courage to say no when needed, and that its foreign policy was rooted in strength, not subservience. For competitors and rivals, the performance was a warning. If India could say this to the United States, it could hold its ground with anyone. This kind of performance cannot be measured in applause alone. It is measured in the recalibration of relationships, in the respect earned, and in the strategic space created for the future. Every strong move must also be designed with safety features, and Jaishankar's reply was no different. He did not cross lines that would escalate tensions unnecessarily. He did not insult, ridicule, or provoke the United States, because diplomacy is not about burning bridges, but about building them strong enough to carry heavy disagreements. His words were wrapped in caution, even as they carried firmness. The safety lay in the balance. Defending India's position without pushing relations into crisis. For a country like India, which values its strategic partnership with the US, but also insists on sovereignty, this balancing act was crucial. The safety features of the statement allowed India to project strength while keeping the door open for cooperation. Much like airbags in a car, the safety measures were invisible unless tested, but they ensured that the reply did not cause a collision that would harm both sides. The true art of diplomacy lies in this: to deliver a chilling statement that defends your pride without breaking the relationship beyond repair. What made this reply stand out were its unique selling points. First, it was fearless. India did not hesitate, did not stammer, did not try to dilute its response. The fearlessness alone made it memorable. Second, it was rooted in independence. JAISHANKAR made it clear that India does not follow someone else's script. Whether it comes from Washington, Beijing, or anywhere else, the message was that India writes its own story, guided by its own priorities. Third, it was timeless in tone. Even years later, people look back at that statement as a moment when India drew a line in the sand, saying that it would not compromise its sovereignty for convenience. This combination of fearlessness, independence, and timelessness turned the reply into more than just words. It became a symbol of India's new diplomatic identity. These unique selling points distinguished it from routine political remarks. It was not just a reply, it was a statement of who India is and who India intends to be in the world order. Of course, every stand has a price. India knew that pushing back against Trump's words could mean economic repercussions, increased trade pressures, or even diplomatic friction. The United States was not only the world's largest economy, but also a key partner in defense and technology. Saying no to such a partner carried risks. But India calculated that the price of silence, the price of appearing weak, would be far greater. In international politics, respect is a currency, and once it is lost, it is extremely difficult to regain. The price India was willing to pay was therefore not just about tariffs or trade, it was about protecting long-term dignity and credibility. When a nation demonstrates that it values respect over immediate benefits, it sets a precedent that others must acknowledge. India's decision to bear the potential costs only enhanced the respect it eventually gained. And as events unfolded, it became clear that while there were moments of friction, the partnership between India and the United States did not collapse. In fact, mutual respect deepened, because the United States too learned that India was not a follower, but an equal partner. The price was real, but the return on investment was even greater. In the end, the conclusion that emerges is clear. JAISHANKAR'S chilling statement was not just about responding to Trump, it was about defining India's place in the world. The exterior was calm but strong. The interior was minimal but powerful. The performance was impactful at multiple levels. The safety features ensured stability. The unique selling points made it unforgettable. And the price paid was worth every bit of the respect earned. This was a statement that marked a turning point, reminding the world that India had arrived as a confident power that would not be dictated to. The significance of this moment also lies in how it shaped India's broader foreign policy narrative. From this point on, India's stance became clearer: engagement with the world, yes; cooperation with partners, yes, but compromise on sovereignty, never. It is important to see this reply not as an isolated incident, but as part of a pattern. Whether in trade, defense, or strategic issues, India has shown increasing consistency in defending its interests. This chilling statement to Trump was one of the clearest early signals of that consistency. It told the world that India had found its voice and that it would use it calmly but firmly whenever required. If we extend this analysis further, the reply also reflects the changing dynamics of global power. The world is no longer unipolar. The United States is powerful, but it is not unquestioned. Rising powers like India are asserting themselves not as challengers, but as independent players, who expect equality in partnership. JAISHANKAR'S words were therefore not only about India and the US, they were about a shifting world order where dignity and independence matter more than hierarchy. For other countries, especially those navigating relationships with bigger powers, India's stance offered a model. It showed that you can stand your ground without breaking alliances, that you can defend your sovereignty without isolating yourself, and that true respect comes only when you respect yourself first. The deeper meaning of this reply can also be seen in the way it resonates with ordinary people. For millions of Indians who had long felt that their country was often lectured to by the West, this was a refreshing change. Here was a leader saying openly and firmly what many had felt privately, that India deserves to be treated as an equal. The emotional impact of this moment cannot be underestimated. It instilled pride, it created a sense of belonging in the global narrative, and it connected the people to the idea of India as a strong and independent nation. This connection between foreign policy and public sentiment is often overlooked, but in democratic societies it is crucial. JAISHANKAR'S statement worked not only in conference rooms, but also in living rooms. Looking at the wider picture, one could argue that this moment was part of India's gradual journey from being seen as a developing nation to being acknowledged as a global power. The reply to Trump was not aggressive, it was assertive, and assertiveness is the language of equals. By choosing that tone, India announced to the world that it had crossed a threshold. It was no longer content to be shaped by global forces, it was ready to shape them. This transformation in tone and confidence is what makes the reply so memorable. At a practical level too, the reply strengthened India's hand in negotiations. The United States realized that India would not cave under pressure, which meant that future talks had to be more balanced. Whether on trade, defense, purchases, or strategic alignment, India's credibility was now higher. For other partners, the message was equally strong. If India could stand up to Trump, it could be trusted to stand by its word with them too. Credibility is the backbone of diplomacy, and this moment added a new layer of it to India's profile. Ultimately, the reply stands as a case study in modern diplomacy. It shows that the most powerful statements are not necessarily the loudest. They are the ones that combine dignity with determination, caution with clarity, and independence with responsibility. JAISHANKAR'S chilling statement did all of this. And in doing so, it set a benchmark for how nations, especially rising ones, can navigate the complexities of global politics without losing themselves. This is why, years later, the statement is still remembered and analyzed. It is not just a reply, it is a marker of change. It tells us where India was, where it is now, and where it intends to go. For the world, it is a reminder that India is not just another country in the crowd, but a voice that must be heard, a partner that must be respected, and a power that must be reckoned with. For India, it is a reminder that the journey toward global leadership begins with the courage to stand tall, even in the face of the most powerful.